Hello YouTube, it's your boy Army Destroyer here, and I'm bringing you a 46 and 10 gameplay on the map Prison Break with the Remington. I'm using Foregrip and Silencer, and it was overall a pretty good class. I just kind of threw it together before the game started real quick, and it ended up being pretty good, so I'll leave that class in the description for you. But I'm gonna tell you guys the story about my first speeding ticket. So I was coming home with a group of friends because I got a text from my friend who was having a party. My dad said that if I had drove him to this concert, I could have the car overnight and just drive to my friend's house and drive back in the morning. And so that was the first time my dad had ever said something like that, so I was pretty pumped because I figured, hey, if this works out well, he might let me do it again. I just have to drive my dad to the concert, and so I leave my friends at my house, just tell them to chill, I'll be back in like 20 minutes. And they agree, and me and my dad get in the car and we take off, and my dad drives me there, and downtown's pretty busy, and because of the show, there were a decent amount of cops out. So I get in the car after my dad hands over the keys, and he walks away, and I start driving away. Now, I was a what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty regular speeder. I sped everywhere, and I went fast. I would never do anything under 80, which is at least 20 kilometers over the speed limit, because Canada, I'm sorry for you Americans watching this. And that's not too bad. But in this particular route that I took, there's kind of a hidden switch between the 60 and the 50. And 30 isn't too bad, but it's getting up there. And so I'm driving by, and this cop, he sees me, and he pulls around, and he starts following me. And we get to a red light, and I'm the first one at the red light, and he's right behind me. And it's a one-way street, decently busy street. So I take off, and I accelerate pretty fast because I have a lead foot, and this cop is undercover, and he's about a foot off my bumper. So I notice this, and I start speeding up. And so I speed up, and he's a foot off my bumper, so I speed up a little bit more, and so does he. So I speed up a little bit more, and so does he. So at this point, I'm just like, hey, this guy's a dick, and I just floor it. So I'm doing about 130 in a 50, and he flicks his lights on. And I'm like, wow, you dick. You could have nailed me for 20, you could have nailed me for 30, you could have nailed me for 40, but instead you waited until you could nail me with the most you could nail me with. You're basically just waiting to throw the book at me. So he pulls me over, and I'm pretty nervous. This is my first encounter with the cops, and he walks up to the window, and he says, do you have any idea how fast you were going? I said no, and he goes, you were doing about 130 in a 50. And I was just like, oh my god, really? He's like, yeah, you're losing your car, it's being impounded, you're losing your license, like, call your dad, he needs to know that his car is getting impounded, which freaked me out even more because I didn't want to tell my dad I was impounding his car. And so I call my dad a bunch of times, and my dad doesn't pick up, and I called him and called him and called him, and eventually he finally picks up after about 4 or 5 calls, and I tell him what happened, and he furious, and he says, let me talk to the police officer. So I say okay, and I walk to the police officer's car, and I'm like, hey, my dad wants to talk to you. So I hand the police officer my phone, which was probably a stupid idea because he probably went through it. And he talks to my dad and he brings me my phone back and he says, you're lucky. Your dad needs the car. I'm not gonna, inconvenience him because of your stupidity. I'm not gonna impound the car. And I was like, oh my god, like, thank goodness, because up to this point, I had been having a full-blown anxiety attack. I was hyperventilating, and the cop was forcibly detaining me in my car. He would not let me leave, and eventually, he walked back to his car, and I was like, fuck it, I'm getting out. Fuck him. And he walked up to me, he was like, you need to get back in your car. I'm like, sir, if I get back in my car, I'm gonna pass out. You can't keep me in my car. I'm sitting against it. Fuck off. And he, you know what, he stepped down, which was it made me feel a little bit better about the situation. So my dad finally shows up and he is furious, obviously, and he gets in the car and I get in the car and I know he's furious and he doesn't say a word, which is like the worst thing because my nerves are still everywhere and I'm waiting for him to just lose it on me, and he doesn't say a word until we get home. And I thought I might be in the clear. He might realize like how much this actually freaked me out. But I got upstairs, I got in my room, I went back downstairs to get a drink, and he let me have it. I have never heard him scream at me so much in his life, and reasonably so. I absolutely deserved it. So, you know what? If you take anything from this, is if you speed, stop, because they're obviously if you do 10 maybe 15 over, it's not a big deal. No cop will ever pull you over for that. But if you're speeding excessively to the point where you're gonna get a ticket, just stop. It's not worth it. It ended up, I got lucky and it only ended up costing me about $1,200, when in all reality, if I hadn't have paid for my lawyer, if I hadn't have, paid for that kind of help, I would have been just fucked. It would have cost me at least $12,000. And at first I thought it was going to be, cheaper. And, my parents, after they freaked out, they were really cool and helped me out with the situation. They got it that, it was my first offense and it really freaked me out. And I'll tell you what, I haven't sped excessively on purpose since. And yeah, so that is the story of my first speeding ticket. If you liked it, please leave a like and comment. It helps the video get around. If you like my content, I would appreciate the sub. I'm planning on putting out content every day. So yeah, leave a like and I will see you tomorrow, guys. Peace out.